Graff is really a complementing product. You should be using this in parallel with your coaches, in parallel with your lessons. It's really giving you the empowerment to take it a step further and access those analytics. Whereas in other setups, you might need an entire room where people simply just don't have the space. We can have people set up in their backyard, in their garage, in their basement, wherever they have, they can take their golf ball. All it is golf ball. We're really going after a more portable and affordable launch monitor.
Golf Smarter, number 810. The Trackman Killer just might be embedded in your next practice ball by Graff Golf.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, Graff Golf.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, so clearly I've got multiple people on the show with me today from Graff Golf, Graff, Graff.golf, Graff Golf. This is going to be an interesting topic because you guys are going to be disruptors in the golf industry, perhaps, which is really exciting. Why don't we do a sound off here? Each one of you identify yourself and what you do for the company. And then as we progress through the conversation, when you speak, if I don't ask you directly, just identify yourself so we know who's speaking. We'll start with Aaron.
Awesome. Well, first off, Fred, thanks so much for having us on. We're thrilled. We're really excited for it. So my name's Aaron Shapiro. I'm the co-founder and CEO here at Graff. At this point, I'm doing all kinds of things, but mostly just making sure that everything here at Graff is running smoothly. So thanks again, and looking forward to the show.
Rowan, go for it.
Yeah, thanks, Fred. I'm Rowan Fraser. I'm the Chief Design Officer here at Graff. My efforts include designing the software, designing the website, basically designing anything that needs to be designed, or at least leading the design efforts. And very, very excited to get this product in front of people as soon as possible, and very excited to talk about it today.
And Sean?
Thanks for having us, Fred. My name is Sean Fairholm. I'm the VP of Content Development at Graff. Have a podcast out, have some articles that we're putting out on the site. So that's my main focus as of now. I'm also a PGA professional, went to North Carolina State in the PGA Golf Management Program. So just trying to lend a little bit of my golf expertise to this exciting new product.
When you say a PGA professional, what level? What are we talking about here?
A Class A professional, A18 classification media. There aren't very many of us. There's only like a handful out of all 28,000 PGA members. So,
so it's a media professional.
Yes, I'm still a Class A professional, but same Class A professional as a instructor or head pro, but just a different type of classification within that.
Well, as a longtime podcaster, and you introduced yourself of having a podcast, dude, you got to give the name of the show when you're promoting yourself.
Yes, the Graff Golf podcast.
I'm not asking you to do that now. This is my show.
Understood.
No, of course. Please, what's the name of the podcast?
The Graff Golf podcast. You can find it everywhere you listen to podcasts.
Yes, as we all love to say these days. All right, so co-founder Aaron Shapiro and CEO, what did you find? And who did you find it with? And what are we talking about?
Yeah, so the story actually starts quite a while ago. It was back when I was 13 years old, and we have a funny story here at Graff. I wasn't a very good golfer back in the day, and I still am not the best golfer. And that's why I'm really excited about what we're bringing to the market here with Graff. But I went out with some of my buddies and found that I could barely hit the ball. And I went to lessons, I went to coaches, I watched YouTube videos, and still I could not figure out how to hit this stupid thing. So I thought there's got to be an easier way to train. Lessons weren't working for me. Training wasn't working for me. So I figured, all these professionals have access to Trackman and these other really exciting launch monitors, and they can literally say, okay, I'm hitting the ball like this. I change my grip, and I can directly see how that affects the ball. Well, unfortunately, unless you have tens of thousands of dollars, quite a bit of space and a few other variables that 99% of the market doesn't have access to, you can't get access to that data. So I figured, how has nobody put electronics inside of a golf ball and produced the same data output? Well, it turns out nobody's done it because it's incredibly difficult from an engineering perspective. So if you think about it, to put electronics inside of a golf ball, they have to be small enough so that they actually fit inside of the golf ball. They have to be accurate enough so that they mean something, whatever you're putting out there. And then it can't break when it's hit by a driver at extremely high speeds. So it's quite a challenging product to build. And there's an exact reason why nobody else has been able to do it. So there's actually a funny story in the company. When I was 13 years old, I went out and tried to build this. And I actually called the company Flog Sports, which is just golf spelled backwards for those of you that didn't
backwards.
know that. And I was out sending emails, acting like I had this big engineering team behind me, and frankly did not get very far in my efforts, but knew it was something that the market wanted, and something that I was going to pursue when the time was right. So in 2018, co-founded the company with Michael Eberly and Patrick Kelly, both at school with me at the time at Johns Hopkins. And together we had the team for hardware, software, and business, and have been growing and pursuing ever since. So we've overcome quite a few challenges, and I'm happy to get into that as we continue here. But it's been a really exciting ride, and we're really thrilled with what we're about to announce and put into the market.
I just, and excuse me for making this assumption, Aaron Shapiro, but I have a feeling when you told your rabbi at 13 that your bar mitzvah project was going to be a golf ball that was electronic, he was looking at you like, that's not what I had in mind, Aaron.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that.
When you said it was really difficult from an engineering perspective, did you even consider that it's really difficult from a practical perspective of having electronics in a golf ball?
There's a lot of difficulties that come along with this. Mike and I have.
But you're not dropping the topic.
No, absolutely not. Mike and I have a running joke where we were talking one day after a few things, and we're like, worst case, this might not get out until like 2019. Well, here we are in mid 2021, and we're still pushing through some battles. I'm getting really close, and really thrilled with where we're at. But it has taken, quite a bit more resources and effort than we had originally imagined.
I can imagine that myself. Mike, you're saying is the other co-founder here.
Correct.
What was it about Mike, other than you guys were friends at 13 years old, that you decided that this is the guy I want to do this with?
Yeah, so I actually didn't meet Mike until I got to Johns Hopkins, and we actually met on the football team there. Originally friends, and he was one of the few kids on the team that was a computer science engineer. So naturally, it seemed like a good fit. Needed somebody to come out and handle really the whole software platform, which is a whole complexity of itself. Mike also had quite a bit of experience in fundraising, so he was a part of a club at Hopkins called A-Level Capital, and essentially they write small checks into JHU-founded companies. So he had some background there, and was also a big-time golfer. So naturally, it just kind of made sense to bring Mike in, and it's been amazing having him on board since.
Awesome. That's fabulous. So then let me ask you as well, Aaron, about the name Graff Golf, Graff. It's not a term that you normally hear in golf. What brought that to the forefront? Yeah,
absolutely. The name is something really, really important and special to us. We were originally called Upshot Golf, and we actually ran into some legal implications. There were some other things called Upshot, and we were kind of advised to stay away from the name, and we hadn't built up too much of a brand behind us at this point in our life cycle. So we're playing around with a few other names, and right around that time, early January 2019, our head football coach here at Johns Hopkins unexpectedly passed away, Jim Margraff, and he was really the individual that kind of made me pursue this idea again. Like I said, I was a 13-year-old, and Coach Margraff, he was very it was really important to him to not just develop great football players, but to develop great individuals. And he was an extremely experienced and successful coach. So at the end of every practice, at the end of every game, he would give us a long speech. And at the end, there was always something he wanted to get us to get out of it, outside of, just something that directly applied to football. And one of the speeches he gave us just ended with, "If not now, when?" And I knew at some point I wanted to pursue building this company again. And I just kept saying, maybe after school, maybe after college, maybe tomorrow. And it really kind of stuck with me. If I'm not going to do it now, when am I going to do it? So later that day, started kind of taking steps there. And that's when brought the idea to Patrick and later to Mike. And together we co-founded the company. So again, the name's incredibly special and important to us and something that we think about on a daily basis.
Wow. That's an incredible story. I had the honor of being John Madden's recording engineer for 3 years. And it was an amazing period of time for me. And I would give him the credit for me going out on my own, because basically what we would do, he would come into the studio. I was working at a radio station at the time in San Francisco. And he would come in and we'd record for about 10 to 15 minutes. He only recorded 2 or 3 3-minute segments at a time, but we would talk for 2 hours every time he came in. I got in trouble from my boss all the time for wasting time. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to tell John Madden to leave, right? He wants to talk, I'm talking. Anyway, he would tell me that he would end his speeches to his team with, "Don't worry about the horse being blind, just load the wagon." And he'd get the whole team fired up and everything. And, "Don't worry about," Madden and his the way he delivered things. "Don't worry about the horse being blind, just load the wagon." And the guys are like, yeah. And they'd all bump heads and run out on the field. And inevitably there was always 1 or 2 guys who go, "What? What does that mean? I don't get it." And those are the guys he didn't want on the team. Mm-hmm. And just at that moment, this woman who worked at the radio station walks in the studio, and her name was Joanne. We call her Joe, not my wife, Joe. And we said, "Hey, Joe, what does this mean to you? Don't worry about the horse being blind, just load the wagon." And she said, "What's the point of loading the wagon if the horse is blind?" Looked at us confused and walked out. And John looked at me and went, "See what I mean?" Right? And it was like, don't worry about the obstacles. Just get it done. Go. Sorry. Right? Siri, I wasn't talking to you. And so if not now, when? Just load. Don't worry about the horse being blind. Just load the wagon. Mm-hmm. And if not now, it's going to be later. So let's take a break right now. We'll be right back. Rowan, how did you meet Aaron? And when he presented his concept to you, did you look at him like you were a puppy going, "What?" The whole thing?
Actually, well, yeah, that's kind of a multi-part answer, but no, the short answer to your last question is no. I actually, all the sort of metaphors and the parts of the company that were more high level always resonated with me pretty deeply. I understand, if not now, when. Jim Margraf had a lot of quotes that these guys had on hand, a lot of the players had on hand, and I think the idea with that team was to find one that resonates with you, and find a way to kind of make it your mantra. I met Aaron over email through a very close friend of mine named Nolan Strauss, who's a very, very talented designer, who said, "This is a sports thing. Nolan is not a big sports guy. And he knows I like sports and I'm an athlete and this and that. So he sent me this contact info for Aaron, and we started chatting. One thing led to another. And, the funny thing is, you asked, when did I meet Aaron? Well, I actually didn't meet Aaron until about 2 years after that email. So we actually, COVID happened, and we had been working together for some months. We were doing the branding. I was designing the logo. We were putting up a website just to to have information online. We were making presentations and pitch decks, trying to gain investor interest. And we were just kind of, if not now, winning everything. We were just kind of going forward. I thought the idea was brilliant. I thought we had to do it. I had no idea how. I'm not an engineer. I'm not involved in the hardware. So there was definitely a lot of faith involved on my end where, I hadn't, like I said, met Aaron yet. I hadn't met Mike or PK, as we call him, Patrick Kelly. So I just kind of went on faith and I just kept going. I was inspired by what we were doing. I love golf. And, years later, we met, had a great time, had a little company retreat, and now here we are.
And I apologize to the audience, but nobody really knows what we're talking about. Rowan, why don't you explain what Graff Golf is hoping to deliver?
So what we're hoping to deliver is an evolution of basically off-course training. I mean, I would say at its core, that is the most powerful use of the Graff product, platform, what have you. In other words, Aaron touched on it earlier with Launchpad, Trackman. Maybe people don't know what that is. So there are things in every sport, but in this instance, golf, that give you statistics. And they sort of attempt to describe what your swing is doing and what your game looks like. They attempt to describe what you're good at and what your strengths are and also what your weaknesses are. And understanding that is very, very valuable for a golfer, for any kind of athlete. That's we see this with products like Whoop. Athletes want to understand how to optimize their performance. That they want to get what's going on. It's not enough anymore to just go beat balls at the driving range. So our hope, what we can bring to golfers, is to empower them by giving them basically a swing analysis unit that can go right in their backyard. I mean, in some spaces where safe, it might be able to go indoors, but with a net, with this ball, and with our platform on your phone, you can understand your golf game, your swing, your contact in ways that are only currently possible with, like Aaron was explaining, expensive machinery and setups or going to other physical locations that host that kind of technology, like 5-iron or Topgolf, things like this.
And what we're looking at is a golf ball, right?
Yes.
Is that basically what as
yes.
a consumer, what I'm going to buy that says Graff Golf on it is a golf ball?
Yes, but I would say yes, but it's important to note that the platform and the ball, in other words, the software and the hardware, are, in our opinions, equally valuable. But from the consumer standpoint, this is a ball. The ball is basically gathering all the raw data on what you're doing every single time you hit it. And the app just basically extrapolates that and gives it to you in a way that you can understand. I mean, the ball doesn't talk to you. So you have to use the app as well. But yes, to your point.
And what is the ball telling us?
Well, in a technical sense, the ball is telling us specific factors. So to name off most of them, it would be carry distance, launch angle, ball velocity, apex height, spin rate, which is very important, maybe a topic of its own, and spin direction. The reason that I call out spin rate is because it's a very, very hot topic in the sport of golf. It's also very hard to calculate. It can be easy to calculate with big apparati, if that's a word. Putting it in tiny
apparatus.
Yeah, I tried. But
it's good.
Getting it accurately recorded and with very small electronics, we want to create a product that's comparable to, and if not better than anything that's already out there. So our testing process is very, very extensive, and RPM, or spin rate, was a gigantic milestone for us because it's big in golf. It's big in golf instruction. It's big in training. It's big in understanding what your shots are doing. I mean, not to go too far off track, but for driver, for example, spin rate on drivers is a very, very telling statistic. And this is becoming more and more common knowledge. And we're just trying to basically, empower athletes with that kind of knowledge so that they can figure out where their games need to go. Some people might not even realize that they're hitting their driver with not a lot of spin, that they have a leg up over the competition already, but they might be thinking to themselves like, well, I've got to fix this. This is just common flaw, but how do you know? Again, the knowledge is the power in the product. So that's what we're trying to bring to people essentially.
Is this a golf ball that we're playing on the golf course? Is it a legal golf ball?
Yes, it's legal, street legal.
PGA legal, USGA legal.
No. So from a performance standpoint, this is not going to be a golf ball that we hope to rival other performance golf balls, be them Titleist, be them Bridgestone, Callaway. That's not the trajectory of the product. The short answer is you can use the product on the course. There will be some performance-related setbacks with using a ball like this on the course, at least in version 1.0. So I would say that the most optimal use and the use that we will encourage people to use is backyard net use, because we do see this as a training aid first and foremost. So, yeah.
Okay. I need to process this for a moment. I'm going to take another time out and we'll figure out how to get deeper into the actual uses of the Graff Golf ball right after this. I'm going to come back to Rowan and Aaron and Sean. I know you're both still here and you can chime in whenever you'd like. But Rowan, so this is a training aid that we're talking about. It's a golf ball that's a training aid that gives you a tremendous amount of feedback.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very much so.
All right. Do you want to let's go beyond that. I was on the driving range before my round yesterday, and there was a guy who had a little unit the size of an iPhone, had its own little stand. I didn't see if it was a Trackman or what it was. And I, every time he hit the ball, I heard this little voice going 221 yards, carry, right? And that's it. And then didn't say anything else. So I asked the guy, I said, what are you using that for? And he says, oh, it just helps me with my swing. I said, really? What kind of information does it give you? How far I hit the ball? It was like, you're at a driving range. There's markers out there.
Yeah.
Maybe you can't see the ball. You can't see that far. I said, well, what other information other than distance are you using it for? And he's like, man, not much more. I'm like, oh, it's probably a waste of $500 right there.
Right. Well, it's not their fault. Golfers have been trained. No, they've been trained to become very obsessed over carry distance. It's kind of it's sort of like almost in some circles, I feel like it's a signifier of what level of golfer you are. What does your driver carry? What does your 4-iron carry? Do you carry your 4-iron 210? Oh, you must be a very good golfer. Oh, you carry your driver 270. You must be a very good golfer. The reality is this is it's not the whole story. It's a very sort of well, I don't want to use a negative connotation word, but it's just a simple understanding of your ability as an athlete, plainly put. And I'm sure Sean can build on this, but I'll just give one example. And what you're referring to for the audience, I believe, is a launch monitor. And to your point, Fred, I think you're spot on. They can range $200 to $500 depending on accuracy. They offer minimal statistics and they don't offer analytics or any kind of insights. So they're good for specific use, though pricey. And I don't think they necessarily do the kind of empowering for training that we're trying to give to people. So here's one example. So, athletes have tendencies. We all have tendencies. We shoot basketballs a certain way. We throw a baseball a certain way. We run a certain way, and we play golf a certain way. So there are some golfers play spinny. Some golfers play a fade off the tee. Some golfers play a draw. Now, it's easy to see those kinds of things when you're at the driving range. It's easy to give your ball an eye test. And I actually think using the markers that are on the driving range, the flags, the distance flags, is very good in warming up for a round. I have nothing against it. I'm not saying do away with the driving range by any stretch. I think warming up is important, stretching, getting limber. But knowing it's not simply enough to know that you are a spinny player. How spinny? What does it mean? Like, do you need to play the ball past the pin because you're going to get backspin on wedges? Is your fade so strong that you actually can't attack certain greens because they're guarded? I mean, there's so many situations that golf has not evolved to take advantage of yet because these kinds of statistics and data points are not common. And what Sean's done and what we're doing as a company is really great push to try to make these things more common. Try to basically, I mean, it's going back to your podcast name, Golf Smarter. I mean, it's a mantra we always say internally, Golf Smart. And what that means is, understand this game better and understand what is your, how are you going to attack the game? What's your sort of role is a bad way to put it, but what's your best course of attack? What's your most efficient line of play? And going down to the product level, what's the most efficient way you can train? Maybe it's not just to sit there and beat 5 irons over and over because it's your worst club. Maybe strengthening certain things about your swing through a 9 iron will actually help you with your longer irons. So there's more caveats where Sean can fill in the blanks on this as far as golf-related knowledge and golfing smart. So, Sean, if you want to jump in, please make me feel smarter.
Well, I just want to say, listen, it makes me so happy that you use Golf Smarter and Golf Smart in your company language. But I'm sorry, Sean, I'm not going to be using Graff Golf in mine on a regular basis. But this episode we will.
Fair. I get it. Yeah, I would say there are just so many assumptions in golf that are kind of deteriorating over time naturally. It's funny. Golf seems to be late to the party on a lot of analytics. Things that can improve that other sports are able to get ahead of golf. Like I went to the course the other day and I'm playing with somebody who has bad equipment, is not playing a good golf ball, and is saying, I'm a bad golfer, so that doesn't matter. Like that's an assumption in golf that is not really something that is factually true. People who are bad golfers say, I don't need to play good equipment. I don't need to really consider what I'm doing because I'm a bad golfer. I think there are assumptions like that aren't really accurate, that I think this project is going to, kind of shine a light on that. Like, the assumption that a golfer gets out to the middle of a fairway and they take their rangefinder out and they hit the flag and they go, I have 152 yards. That's roughly a 7 iron for me. I'm going to hit a 7 iron, where you're not considering all of the most important variables of what that shot entails. What are your shot dispersions? Where do you normally miss your 7 iron? What area of the green do you have to miss? Is it only 135 yards to the front of the green and there's trouble over the green? Then you shouldn't be hitting your 7 iron. There's so many things that golfers, they don't even really think about it. They don't really go through that thought process. And if you know exactly what is your max carry with an 8 iron, that's a really important number, more than your average. What if you absolutely pure an 8 iron and you hit it 155 yards, and you can't even possibly get past that yardage after hitting 100 balls? Well, that's really important to know, that the back of the green is 157 yards. That means that you can hit that 8 iron and have full confidence, and you can go after it and not have to worry about it. So I think there are strategy elements in play here that I think if you gain data from hitting this ball in your backyard and you understand what it says, you can carry that out to the course and really kind of understand what you're doing. I'll give you another example. The first hole at my home club, the fairway is about 70 yards wide from right to left. It's a very handshake opener. You can basically miss it wherever you want to the left. If you miss it to the right, there are trees. It's not a good situation, but you can hit wherever you want to the left. Now, if you aim down the middle of the fairway and you hit a fade, or you are putting, the right side of the hole in trouble, it doesn't really make any sense. Really, the correct aiming point would probably be at the left edge of this fairway bunker that's left of the fairway. That's what the Golf Smart concept would tell you to do. Get this ball in play, give yourself a 8-iron or a 9-iron in your hands with an open shot, take out the right side as much as you possibly can. So I think there are a lot of elements like that where it's not just, how you improve your golf game. It's that element too, but it's also, what do you have right now? Who are you as a player right now? And how can you apply that to actually going out and playing and having more fun and shooting lower scores?
We did an episode, Eric Schulberg, the first episode we did with him, and the name of the show was, "If you're not practicing without feedback, don't practice." And that's exactly where this fits in. And now that I have a group situation here, this is really interesting. Sean, how far do you hit your 7-iron?
About, I would say, 165 yards.
Rowan, how far do you hit your 7-iron?
158 to 162 ish.
Aaron, how far do you hit you 7-iron?
Oof. I mean, that's a big range. We're going to go with 150 if we're hitting it well.
So I think that answers the question about where, that's how I really got started doing this show, because when I was new at golf and I would be on the tee box and I would say, "What's my target?" And the guy would say, "Oh, just hit your 7-iron." It's like, well, wait a minute. At that point, I hit my 7-iron about 127 yards. I mean, I don't know. And you probably hit yours 150. So why don't tell me what club to hit? Just tell me what the target is.
Right. It's
Sorry.
I just wanted to jump in because what Sean's saying is such a rich area. And I just didn't want to forget something that Aaron mentioned earlier and build on it with where Sean's going and where you're going now, Fred. It's quickly, Aaron mentioned lessons, and we've all gotten them. If we're avid golfers, we've tried it. And this, this is the same kind of thing. We don't all know the answers every time, and Sean's a very good golfer. I had the privilege of playing on his team during our Graff meetup, and it was very enjoyable. But Sean knows a lot more than me about golf and about being efficient, about golfing smarter. And so do professionals, and instructors across the world. And this also empowers them. So in other words, they can help you. Maybe you don't know how to attack fairways. And that can be fair. You might be a great athlete. You might have great natural ability. And now you have these stats. Well, even that might not be enough, but you can now share them with your coach, or you can share them with your instructor, or you can share them with Fred, Sean, Aaron. There's people out there that are using the product as well. So there's ways to complement this with the people that do know a lot about golf, have been around the sport a long time, and can show you how to get the most out of it and how to take advantage of it.
I'm going to take another break right here. When I come back, I want to get into some details of how it actually works for each golfer. We'll be right back. This week on Golf Smarter Mulligans, episode 126 is the first of two parts with former PGA Tour pro and Golf Channel announcer Andrew Magee. I played a foursome with Andrew at a Pro-Am in Scottsdale, Arizona back in 2010, and he was so kind and so gracious to allow me not only to interview him for the podcast, but we also did a short video that still lives on our Golf Smarter TV channel. In that video, Andrew shares a story that makes him stand out in golf history as the only player, or maybe today the first player in golf history, on the tour at a PGA Tour event with a hole-in-one on a par 4. And it's a crazy story. So check that out at golfsmarter.com, and we'll link that story video to the episode. But for the podcast, here's an incredible piece of advice for the rest of us from a former PGA Tour winner.
People think too much. We all do it. We get lessons and we go out to the golf course and we still try to work those lessons through our round of golf, and that's the wrong time to do it. There's a practice tee and there's a golf tee, and once you get on the golf course, you let yourself go, Try to enjoy that 4 hours you spend walking the beautiful green grass, and leave your technical, mechanical side on the range. And when you finish playing, if you want to go back to the range and work on something, great. But we all do a terrible job of separating that. I'm guilty as anybody else. If you want to play your best golf, you got to become a Zen master out there. You've got to get past first grade in elementary school. You've got to get away from learning and all this education, and you've got to become your Zen master. You've got to become that guy who just lets it go and you enjoy it. You get everything out of it you can, then you leave the golf course, and then if you want to work on stuff, do it then, but don't work on the golf course.
That's Andrew Magee, former PGA Tour player on Golf Smarter Mulligans. Next week, we continue with part 2 that was part of our members-only episodes, so it's never been heard publicly before, so you won't want to miss either conversation. That's episode 126 of Golf Smarter Mulligans, being released this Friday. Both Golf Smarter and Golf Smarter Mulligans are available from where you're listening to this podcast right now. Please subscribe and follow both so that you can either download or stream the brand new episode on your favorite listening device. Rowan, when you were talking about lessons, and Sean, you're talking about the lessons, and Aaron, I played with a guy last week, and I'd never played with him before. I was just walked out as a single, and so I'm introducing and meeting people. And the gentleman that I was playing with tells me he's an 8.6 index right now, and I asked him, "Oh, that's interesting. Are you up to an 8.6 or down to an 8.6?" And he said, "Actually, I'm up. I was lower, but I went and took a weekend of a golf school of lessons, and it screwed me up for months. And now I'm trying to bring my handicap back down. And lessons can be really helpful, but it's not not necessarily a weekend of lessons. It's an ongoing thing where you can constantly get feedback. Brings us back to your product, Graff Golf Ball, of something that you can practice with at home into a net, and it's going to be giving you feedback on the ball. So important.
Absolutely.
Now, Rowan, as a design guy, like you're constricted on the hardware, meaning the ball itself, by the specifications of a golf ball. You really have a lot of limits that you have to stay within. So where does your creativity come in, right?
Well, I mean, to be completely honest, I mean, my creativity plays no part in the hardware. We that would all be in the creativity of Patrick Kelly and at this point Parker Feldman, who is our recent and first full-time hire, who has basically made this, more believable and more, more of a rally point than we ever thought possible. I mean, we were hoping to get a product out as soon as we could, as best as we could, iterate it, improve upon it, the same old thing that any startup does. But when Parker came on board, I mean, his kind of engineering creativity has been unparalleled, and it's just taken the company to new heights. So it's part of the reason that we're at this strange crossroads right now where we're more excited than we've ever been about this product, but we also now know that we have to adhere to timelines and we cannot rush. We have to do it right. So, in the old days of Graff, it was a sprint, and it became a marathon. And even though now we're seemingly in the last lap, we can't fumble the baton. These metaphors are just getting a little too crazy, but we have to stay the course. And Parker has helped sort of just crystallize exactly what we do need to do to make sure we have a successful launch.
You said that he's your first full-time hire. Are you guys all doing this out of the great goodness of your heart? Wait, what? Aren't you guys employees of some company here? Aaron, how did you convince these guys to work for free? Wait, I'm missing something here.
Yeah, it was a lot of convincing at the end of the day. So we have the three co-founders, myself, Patrick, and Mike. And Rowan told the short story of how we kind of brought him on, and that was more really just hustle and grind of emailing probably 100 different designers in the Baltimore area and seeing if anybody was willing to take a flyer on us and come work with us. Finally, we were put in touch with Rowan, brought him on board. Similar story with Sean. I reached out to probably 100 different golf writers and basically said, "Hey, this is what we're doing. Does anybody want to get on board?" And Sean was really excited about the idea and came on. And I think we're all at this point extremely excited about the potential that we have to absolutely disrupt the market. We do have salaried employees here, but that said, I think people are really just excited about the potential of what we're doing, more so than any monetary value that they expect to get out of it, which is really, really exciting from our point of view, and really shows how much everyone just believes in what we're doing.
As a consumer, Aaron, what am I buying?
Yeah, you're buying access to analytics. And what I always like to think about is going back to that story about going to the lessons, and the golf instructor would basically say, "Hey, your swing sucks. You need to do 15 different things, and that's how you're going to fix your swing." And I'd nail down and I'd say, "I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I need to focus on this and that." And I'd go to play around, and I would slice every single ball, but I also couldn't putt. I couldn't chip either. So really, there's so many different areas of my game that needed to be improved. Yet I couldn't nail down on 1, 2, or 3 specific areas. And that's at the end of the day what we're trying to do: make that improvement process more efficient. So at the end of a practice session, what you're buying is access to these deep analytics. So you have hundreds of data points, like Rowan listed off, but you're also getting insights. So we're looking at all of this data, analyzing it, and saying, here's 1, 2, 3 things that are really going wrong in your game. And here's videos and drills for how to improve that. So that's really what you're buying as a consumer.
Okay, but what am I really buying? I mean, I'm not subscribing to a website that gives me analytics of my rounds. Right?
You are.
What am I putting money? Yeah, but what am I putting money down on the table for? And what am I being handed, or what am I receiving for my purchase?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you go to the Graff website, you go and subscribe to our platform. And with that, the hardware is included. So you go and you're given 3 golf balls and a charger. And then you're also given access to our analytics platform and then, what we were just talking about. You then gain access to those deep analytics.
Okay. 3 golf balls and a charger. I've not heard that word in our conversation before.
Yeah, that's a big topic.
The golf ball parts. Yeah, the golf ball part I get. Why do I need a charger?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the golf balls are powered by a battery, and they do not last forever. So you need to recharge it when the battery becomes low or dead. Which has been a very difficult task. A patent application that we just actually filed. Because you think about it, you go and use wireless charging with a smartphone, and the 2 coils, the transmitting and the receiving coil, are up flat against each other. So when you go put your phone on that wireless charger, it's basically touching and can transmit that charge. Well, when you have a smart golf ball, the electronics are embedded deep inside of the golf ball. So the signal just can't process that through the golf ball. So we've actually had to come up with a completely custom solution here. And it's taken us just about a year to develop at this point. And it's a really complex solution, but one that we're really excited with. And again, are proud to be patenting as well.
Very interesting. So you said the battery doesn't last forever. If I'm using my sleeve of 3 charged golf balls into my net a couple times a week, every day, 15 minutes, an hour, at a time, what's going to last longer, the golf ball or the battery? I mean, how many hits am I going to get out of this ball, each ball?
Yeah, so you're going to get definitely more durability out of the golf ball. So that's why the wireless charger is included. Mm-hmm. So you'll go and after each round, maybe you use 1, maybe you use all 3 of the balls. but you'll go through and place those on the charger in between different sessions, and then go and have them ready and fully charged for your next session.
So I play with a Titleist Pro V1X. My playing partner plays a Callaway Chrome Soft, and the third guy plays that TaylorMade with those cute little triangles all over it. I'm not even sure which TaylorMade that is. Does this ball compare to any or all of those? How does it compare? And then give me information that is relevant to the golf ball I play.
That is a great point, and one we've thought about very, very thoroughly. Because at the end of the day, it is going to perform differently. When you embed electronics inside of a golf ball, you're not getting the full performance of a Pro V1 or other top golf balls on the market. And once you start considering that, you're saying, okay, I'm hitting this golf ball into the net. That's fine. It doesn't travel as far. But the statistics that you're giving me, if you tell me, my 7 iron goes X with this ball and then Y with your Graff Golf ball, well, how is that doing me any good? So what we've actually had to do is go and collect thousands and thousands of data points on the Graff Smart golf ball and then on other performance golf balls, and actually draw a comparison there and say, okay, if you're hitting the Graff golf ball, and that's fine. But we need to show you what would be happening if you were hitting your golf ball. Obviously, golfers are very particular with the golf ball that they use, so we need to cater to that and be able to tell them their analytics per their golf ball, not per the Graff golf ball.
Wow. Okay. That's fascinating. That's really interesting. So there's a lot of statistics that go along with the analytics and comparing them all the way across the board.
Absolutely.
Wow. Sean, I'm sure you have something to add to this. We haven't heard from you for a few minutes. So there's so many topics we've covered in this. What do you want to add here? I know you're just chomping at the bit.
I taught lessons for a couple of years, and the most frustrating part was, you teach somebody for a week and they come back a week later and they haven't done anything that you asked them to do.
Sure.
You have to reteach exactly what you just taught them a week ago. And you go, I'm not really getting anywhere here as a teacher. And I think that is
and the students probably just as frustrating, going, I'm not getting anywhere because, as a student, I can get that sense of, okay, so I got this lesson. I was hitting the ball the way I wanted at the lesson. I went home or to the range once because I was going to practice what I learned, and I had completely different results from my lesson. So I'm feeling the same way. I'm not getting anywhere here.
So absolutely. And I think the ability, and especially modern life, to go out and spend 10, 15, 20 minutes in your backyard, hit the golf ball, have that direct feedback like you're talking about, and be able to have a direct relationship with your coach. There are so many different portals now where coaches have that access to their students, and they could have that real-time data of exactly what their student is doing. I think that relationship changing from the frustrated instructor once a week and the frustrated student to having that immediate feedback on a more consistent basis, where someone can go out and do this easily every single day, instead of, golf can be tough sometimes with finding practice time, with finding time to play, with all these different elements. This to me is kind of, it cuts down on some of those barriers to entry that golf has a lot of times.
So we talked early on about you guys have the potential of being a disruptor in this industry. It's who's your target? What are you shooting to knock out of the way so that people will be using, the Graff golf balls and the analytics that comes from that? Who's your what are you after?
Graff is really a complementing product, if you think about it. We mentioned the training portal. You should be using this in parallel with your coaches, in parallel with your lessons, in parallel to YouTube videos or whatever other content you consume. It's really giving you the empowerment to take it a step further and access those analytics. Yes, we would prefer to take over some of the more inexpensive launch monitors, given that we have a much more inexpensive or affordable platform, and it's also much more portable. So whereas in other setups, you might need an entire room where people simply just don't have the space. Like Rowan mentioned, we can have people set up the platform in their backyard, at the range, if they set up a net there, in their garage, in their basement, wherever they have, they can take their golf ball. All it is a golf ball. Some other more expensive launch monitors require more space. So they require rooms, they require sensors to be professionally installed. When it comes to Trackman or some of the more expensive launch monitors, if you have the means for that's a product of its own. That's in its own category. We're really going after a more portable and affordable launch monitor.
Do you have a price point set?
We have not publicly announced the price point at this point to date, but very excited to, in the coming weeks and months, to start publicizing some of our price points and also our timeline for shipping.
Okay. And when we're now in mid-September 2021, do you have a target date of when we're going to be able to see something and get our hands on it?
We have not publicly announced a target date either. I will tell you we're very confident.
It's a floating target date right now.
In early 2022, we do expect to be delivering some units to customers. So very excited for what the next half year holds for us. But again, we do not have a hard date set at the moment.
Do you plan on being at the PGA Merchandise Show in 2022?
We do not have plans to have
January?
a booth. We will not have a booth there this year. But if anybody would like to meet up, we will be more than happy to walk around and talk to some individuals there.
So you're going to be there.
We will be there.
You'll have something in your pocket, hopefully have something in your pocket to showcase.
That's the plan.
Or just a lot of paperwork or PowerPoint decks.
Exactly.
You can be showing on your phone.
Exactly.
Final thoughts. Rowan, you have anything you'd like to add before we wrap this up? Because I know you guys have to move on to the next interview for the Graff Golf podcast.
Sure. I mean, I think we covered a lot of really, really important ground. I mean, I think the biggest takeaway for me and the thing I was most excited about is simply the nature of your podcast. And I think it really strikes a chord with us. It's kind of what we're all about. And I think from a high level, that's kind of what we are trying to deliver. I mean, just to kind of amplify what Aaron just said, I wrote some provocative lines, but at the end of the day, this is a collaborative product that can be built in and fit in with existing technologies and existing cultural norms in the sport of golf. I mean, it's a practice enhancement. I mean, to Sean's point, it's homework for lessons so that your coach or your instructor can monitor what you're doing and what your statistics are looking like. It's just plainly knowledge, and you can know day to day, week to week, what your shots are doing. And you can play around that. And this will 100% give you a better shot at becoming a better golfer more efficiently. And the one other thing I'll say is that, you mentioned it before, what kind of binds us together. We're not all working for free. I just want to make that clear. But what binds us together is that, we have a great team, and Aaron, is very good at finding and managing talent and cultivating it here. And it's just like what you kind of mentioned about the John Madden quote. You kind of buy in or you don't. And when you put that out there for people, you can very quickly filter through who's all in and who isn't. And we're a startup. We can only be all in. We can't afford to be anything else. So, I'm my excitement is contained because it has to be, but I literally cannot wait until we can share this with the world, see how they use it, see the kind of content they make with it, and all the things that they'll have to say about it and its potential. It's like literally I dream about it. So excited.
Well, your excitement is also contagious, beyond contained. That's why you guys are here today. Sean, your turn. What do you got to say?
Golf should be fun. In my opinion, hitting 57 irons at the range and not having any feedback is just not that fun. I think it's an outdated concept. Golf should be interactive. You should be getting feedback as you go through it. I think to the complementary nature of this product, what about club fitters? What about coaches? What about college teams? What about all these different resources? What about somebody using this product in Florida, comparing, how they're hitting it to somebody in California? What about those different opportunities? The sky is the limit with this, as Rowan said, that we have to kind of pace ourselves and to be cautious as we go along with it. But there's just so much excitement and so many different possibilities for a game that a lot of times doesn't move very quickly. We're hoping to move it along maybe a little bit quicker than it has.
Aaron, take it home.
Yeah, well, first off, just wanted to thank you again, Fred, for having us on this show. We're thrilled to be here, thrilled for this opportunity, and most importantly, thrilled to tell the world about what we've been working on for the last 3 years. This is some really exciting technology. It absolutely has the potential to disrupt the golf market and how you go about training for your golf game. So thank you again, Fred. Stay tuned, everybody, for some really exciting updates here shortly, and we can't wait to get into your hands.
3 years? Wait a minute. You're 16? You said you started doing this when you were 13.
Yeah. 3 years on the second.
You must have been really a big kid to be playing football at Johns Hopkins at 15 years old. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, Fred.
Thanks, Fred.
Thank you.
When I first launched the Golf Smarter podcast in 2005, there were less than 5 golf podcasts. And it was pretty simple to tease through them to find a show that was interesting, helpful, and worthy of your sustained attention. Not today. 2020 was a huge year for podcast growth, and the competition for golf content increased exponentially. And like YouTube, there's so much content available now, it's really hard to find something or someone who speaks to you. And really, most golf podcasts focus on PGA Tour commentary. And we seem to be on this small little island of shows that are dedicated to making you a better golfer. Can that be done through audio? Through a podcast? Well, based on your feedback and how much I've improved by interviewing more than 400 game improvement experts, I have to say yes. Clearly, my focus is golfers, not just golf. That's why I like to refer to Golf Smarter as the Golfers Podcast. So mostly, I want to thank you for being a Golf Smarter listener and encourage you to be a Golf Smarter ambassador. There are a couple ways to achieve that status. Tell your golf buddies, obviously. Mention an insight that you learned, whether on the golf course or even on social media channel of your choice. But writing an honest review on your favorite podcast app is so important because if someone new to podcasting does a search for golf, your comments can be incredibly influential in making the introduction. So please share your thoughts about Golf Smarter from wherever you listen. Thank you. Next week, by suggestion from a longtime Golf Smarter ambassador, we'll meet a young golf instructor who's really making a name for himself on YouTube. Our conversation is with Tom Segudo of Segudo Golf. Golf Smarter is your podcast for caddy, and like caddies, we graciously accept any and all tips for services provided. And the tip jar is now open. Just click on donate at golfsmarter.com.